A cold autumn rain pours from a gray sky. Drops stream down her face, and Vanessa can't tell where the rain ends, and her own tears begin. She stands behind the thick trunk of an old pine tree, 20 meters from her own grave. Her fingers dig into the rough bark to keep from taking a step forward. Below, on a neat green patch beneath a marble slab, stands he, Hayuk. His black suit is soaked and blends with the dark earth. He doesn't move. He looks like a statue, the sloping stone of his shoulders slumped heavily. Then he slowly bows, placing a bunch of white orchids on the wet grass. Her favorite flowers. He runs his palm over the cold stone where her name is carved, and suddenly he bends over, literally folds in half. His powerful shoulders, which could lift any weight, now shake with quiet, heart-rending sobs. He falls to his knees in front of the stove, resting his forehead on it. His back shakes. Vanessa's breath caught in her throat. The sound of his crying, muffled by the rain, reached her. It was the sound of pure animal pain. She had never seen him like this. Hayek had never seen her like this. He had always been a rock, a wall, an impenetrable fortress. And now that fortress had collapsed, and it was her fault. "Come out," her inner voice whispers. "Come here. Touch me. Tell me you're here." She takes a tiny step forward. A wet branch snaps under her boot with a crunch. The sound seems as loud as a gunshot. She freezes, her heart pounding somewhere in her throat. Hayek doesn't hear. He's consumed by his grief, but something else stops her. The face of her younger brother, David, flashes before her eyes, his frightened eyes on that last day she saw him. "For David," she reminds herself harshly, "you've endured everything for him. You've endured these lies, this fear. You can't destroy everything now with one step." She sees Hayek's lips moving. He's saying something to the grave. The rain muffles the words, but she reads his lips. Just one word, repeated several times. "Sorry, sorry, sorry." The word cuts through her like a knife. She's the one who should be asking for forgiveness. She deceived him, made him believe the worst. And now she watches the consequences of her deception, like a thief, like a traitor. The pain in her chest becomes physical, sharp, as if her ribs are about to crack. She can't bear to watch this anymore. She can't stand and watch as the man she loves more than life dies of grief for her. Vanessa turns. She doesn't run. She almost falls, tripping over roots, desperately pushing through the wet undergrowth, away from this place, away from this sight. Her tightly braided red hair escapes from under her hood and whips across her face. She runs until her lungs burn, until the sound of the rain drowns out the sound of her own heart. She doesn't see Hayek suddenly lift his head. His face, wet from rain and tears, becomes sharp and wary. He didn't hear her footsteps, but his instincts, honed by years of danger, kicked in. He looks around, his eyes, a moment ago filled with tears, now dry and scanning the forest with a cold, predatory attention. He looks straight in the direction Vanessa just disappeared, but sees only branches swaying in the wind. Vanessa stops, leaning against a tree at the edge of the forest, right next to the road. She breathes through her mouth, steam billowing out. She closes her eyes, and the rain, the forest, and the cold disappear. A different picture appears before her, bright, sunny, but no less cold for that. She stands in the vast, two-white living room of Miranda's house. Sunlight plays on the immaculate surfaces, but doesn't warm her. The air is thick with the scent of expensive flowers and old, unshakable power. Miranda sits in a chair. She doesn't look angry or cruel. She looks like she's solving a business problem. Her hands are folded in her lap, her manicure perfect. "You're no good for my son, Vanessa," Miranda says. Her voice is smooth as a blade. "You're a weakness. You're a risk. In his world, risks are eliminated. I don't want to eliminate you. I'm offering you a choice." Vanessa is silent. She feels everything inside her shrink into a lump of ice. Hayek won't let you go easily. He's stubborn. He considers you his, so you have to disappear, without a trace, Miranda continues. She picks up a thin tablet from the table, swipes the screen and turns it toward Vanessa. On screen is David. He's leaving his college, laughing with friends. The camera zooms in on his carefree, happy face. "You have a brother, young, promising. Your life is ahead of you," Miranda says. Then she changes the picture. Now it's a photo of David, taken with a hidden camera in his dorm room. He's asleep. Life is fragile, especially one so young. Vanessa feels the floor shift beneath her. "You wouldn't dare," she whispers hoarsely. Miranda smiles. It's not a kind smile. "It's all been prepared, a car accident. Your body won't be found. Hayek will grieve, but time heals. He will accept the rules of our world. And you will live, somewhere far away, with a new name, and your brother will continue to breathe, to learn, to live. His every breath will depend on your silence, on how well you disappear. This isn't a threat, baby. It's the market. She places a thick envelope on the table. Documents, money, instructions. Decide now. At that moment, Vanessa realized this wasn't drama. It was cold calculation. Huck's love for her had made him vulnerable, and his mother, to patch this vulnerability, was willing to cut out the brightest part of his life. And Vanessa, to save the only real family she had left, had to become an accomplice. She took the envelope. Her hands didn't shake. They were as cold as Miranda's voice. Vanessa currently lives in an apartment on the 4th floor of an old brick building in a very ordinary, even boring neighborhood. There are no city views, no panoramic windows. The windows overlook the courtyard, other similar windows, and ventilation pipes. The apartment smells of someone else's place, old linoleum, and the faint scent of new paint. The furniture is basic, cheap, bought from an ad. There's nothing of hers here, nothing that could connect this Vanessa with the old one. She stands in front of the mirror in a tiny bathroom. She holds a box of hair dye. On the box is a cheerful, smiling girl with copper-red curls. Vanessa, methodically following the instructions, mixes the mixture in a plastic bowl. Her hands move automatically. She applies the caustic mixture to her thick, fluffy black hair. It had always been her pride, her highlight, as Hayek called it. He loved running his fingers through it. The dye stings her scalp. She watches as dark strands disappear beneath the orange copper mass. She erases herself, brick by brick. First her name, then her past, now her appearance. After the allotted time, she washes off the dye. A stranger emerges from under the stream of water. Her hair is the color of autumn leaves, bright and garish, but it's also the best camouflage. No one would look for a black woman with an afro when looking at a redhead. She's learning to be a shadow. The first lesson, gaze. You can't look people straight in the eye. A gaze catches your eye. It's memorable. She looks off to the side, at the person's chest level, or simply down. She's learning to walk, not the quick and confident one she used to, but a little hunched, unassuming. She buys simple, baggy, dark-colored clothes that don't attract attention. She creates rituals. Every morning, the same walk to the same cheap supermarket, the same groceries. She greets her neighbor upstairs just long enough for her neighbor to remember her face, but not be interested in her. She becomes part of the background, invisible. At night, she lies on a strange couch and stares at the ceiling, and she thinks about one thing, not about how scared she is, not about missing Hook. She thinks about whether David is alive, whether he is happy, and every day that the news doesn't report an accident involving a young student, she breathes a small sigh of relief. It means her game is working. It means she's doing everything right. But melancholy is a disease. It corrodes caution. One morning, after a particularly long night spent reminiscing, her feet carried her not to the supermarket, but to an old, familiar street, to where a small cafe called Marco's stood on the corner. They made that very cardamom coffee that Hayek adored, and that she loved. She stands opposite, frozen in the flower shop window. Her heart beats dull and loud. She just wants to go in, grab a glass, inhale the familiar scent. For a moment, feel like the old Vanessa. She crosses the street, already reaching for the cafe door handle, and through the glass she sees him. Not him, but his car. A long black car, always perfectly clean, parked 50 meters away at the curb. He has unique rims. She would recognize them among 1,000. An icy wave rolls down her spine. Every instinct screams, "Run!" But her body freezes for a second. She looks at the door where he might be sitting, drinking their coffee, remembering. At that moment, the back door of the car opens. It's not Hayek who gets out. It's Sang-chul, his right-hand man, his friend. The man says something to the driver and heads toward the cafe. Panic, sharp and blind, overwhelms Vanessa. She jerks away from the door. The plastic cup of coffee she'd been half holding in her mind slips from her mind, and in reality, her elbow hits a table outside. The empty glass, containing someone else's remains, falls to the sidewalk with a loud crunching sound. A clicking sound. Sang-chul turns around. His gaze glides down the street, stopping on her for a split second. On the red-haired woman, who has turned too abruptly and is practically running toward the corner of the alley. It was a split second. He didn't recognize her. He couldn't, but he noticed. He noticed the panic, The abnormal reaction. Vanessa ducks into a dirty alley, leaning her back against the cold brick. She presses her hand to her mouth to stifle her own ragged breathing. She hears the door of a cafe slam on the main street. Sang Chiol steps inside. He doesn't follow her. She stood in the alley for 10 minutes until the shaking in her knees subsided. It was her first, stupid, unforgivable mistake. Her longing for the past almost betrayed her. She promised herself, never again. No more cafes, no more old routes. She must forget that life completely. She is a shadow. A week has passed since the incident at the cafe. Vanessa is trying to get back into her invisible routine, but something is gnawing at her inside. A feeling that she's missed something, something important. She sits on her sofa, mensos, walking through her old workshop. It was her sanctuary, a place even Hayuk visited only by invitation. There she painted, sculpted, created. There, in the old wooden workbench, was a secret drawer. A small one, hollowed out from the thick tabletop. She made it herself, to store her most precious little things. And then it hit her like an electric shock. A USB key fob. Not just any flash drive, a small one, shaped like a silver rabbit, her spirit animal. At the very beginning of their relationship, back when everything was a secret, she'd uploaded a single photo to it. Their first photo together. They were on the beach. He'd taken it on his phone and then forwarded it to her. In it, they're both laughing, his arm around her shoulders, and she's pressing her cheek against his. The photo isn't perfect, sunlit, but it shows true, untainted happiness. She never showed it to anyone, never opened it. It was her personal talisman, and she forgot it in that hiding place. In the panic before her disappearance, she took documents and a few pieces of jewelry from her mother, but she forgot about that piece of her heart. Now that keychain is in the workshop, a place Hayuk probably frequents. What if he finds it? He'll realize she was hiding something. He'll start digging. And if he starts digging, he'll stumble upon Miranda's lie. And then David. The panic this time isn't hot, but icy. She has to get that flash drive. She has to erase this last trace of the old Vanessa. She waits until late at night. 2 hours. The streets are quiet. She dresses all in black. Old sweatpants, a dark sweatshirt, sneakers. She hides her red hair under a black hat. The night bus ride to her old neighborhood takes 40 minutes. She sits in the back seat, her forehead pressed against the cold glass. The city floats past outside, alien and unfamiliar. She gets off 2 stops before the one she needs. She walks, keeping to the shadows of the buildings. Her old building is a converted warehouse with tall windows and a separate entrance to the workshops. She knows all the camera blind spots. She knows where the fence is lowest. She climbs over the fence into the yard, trying not to make any noise. She has the key to the outer door. She didn't have to hand it over as part of the disappearance plan. Her heart is pounding, as if it wants to burst out. She inserts the key and turns it slowly. The lock clicks, the sound deafening in the stillness of the night. She slips inside. The hallway smells of old paint, dust, and something else. A faint, barely perceptible scent. Hayek's cologne, the same one, with notes of smoke and leather. It hangs in the air like a ghost. He was here. Recently. Vanessa freezes, listening. Silence. She creeps toward her door. Another key. Another click. She enters the workshop. Moonlight falls through the high window, revealing familiar shapes from the darkness. A cloth-covered easel, shelves filled with jars, the outline of a workbench. The smell is stronger. It smells of dust, stale air, and his cologne. The scent emanates from the workbench. She approaches, and her foot steps on something soft. She recoils, turns on the flashlight on her phone, dimming the light with her palm. 3 white orchids lie on the floor in front of the workbench. They've already begun to wilt, their petals falling. They were clearly not placed there today, but not very long ago either. They are a direct message, a silent visitation, a sign of remembrance, a sign of longing. Hayuk was here. He came here, to her shrine, just as he had to the cemetery. He searched for her traces. He breathed her air. For a moment, she's overcome by such a wave of tenderness and pain that she's ready to sink to the floor next to these flowers. But she remembers why she came. She looks away from the fading orchids, this evidence of his suffering, and directs the beam of the flashlight under the workbench. Her fingers search for the familiar crevice. She presses. A small spring clicks softly, and the thin wooden panel slides aside. There, in the small, dark space, lies the silver rabbit. The keychain is still there, She breathes a sigh of relief and takes it, tucking it into her pocket. She's done it. She's erased the last piece of evidence. She's about to leave when her gaze falls on the front door. Where there used to be a peephole, there's now a barely noticeable glimmer of light. A tiny, clean lens, distinct from the dusty surface of the door. Her blood runs cold. It's not a peephole. It's a lens. A small, modern camera. Someone installed it here. Someone is watching this place. The question hangs in the dark air, scented with his cologne. Who? Hayuk? Looking for any clue? Or Miranda's people, watching to see if she returns? Or Sang-chul? Vanessa switches off the flashlight and presses herself into the shadows against the wall. She can no longer smell his cologne. All she can smell is danger. She's trapped, and she's just activated the motion sensor, probably built into this camera. She has to get out. Now! She slips silently back toward the exit, her heart a continuous, frantic pounding in her ears. She climbs back over the fence and disappears into the night, clutching the cold silver rabbit in her pocket. Now she has proof of her past, and she's certain she's being watched. The game is just beginning, and the rules have become even more terrifying. Vanessa runs out of the alley onto the deserted night street and practically runs for several blocks without looking back. Only after she gets into a random taxi and gives the driver an address in the next neighborhood does she allow herself to exhale. Her fingers clutch the cold metal of her rabbit keychain in her pocket. She doesn't go straight home. She goes to a 24-hour store in the neighborhood where she was dropped off, buys a bottle of water, and sits down on a cold bench near the bus stop. She needs time to process what she's seen. Details she'd ignored in her panic came flooding back to her. Those very flowers. Not just the wilted ones on the floor. There was a glass of water on the workbench. In it, a single, fresh, perfect white orchid. It's not just a remnant of a previous visit. Wilted flowers on the floor are a sign of remembrance, of grief. But a fresh flower in a glass is something else entirely. It's a ritual. It's a regular action. Hyuk didn't just go there once to cry. He keeps coming back. He brings new flowers. He keeps the place in some strange, living state, as if she'd just left and would soon return. He's looking for her not only in the past. He doesn't seem to fully believe she's gone, or doesn't want to believe it. The thought made her heart clench with fresh pain, mixed with a faint, dangerous hope. But then another thought came, chilling. What if it wasn't Hayek? What if someone else was bringing the flowers? Someone who wanted this place to seem alive to an observer, to herself. The trap became even more tangled. But flowers are just flowers. A camera, however, is a fact. A solid, irrefutable, and very bad fact. Vanessa's mind flashed back to that door. The peephole had always been there, old, cloudy, almost sealed shut from the inside. Now, in its place, there was a different lens. Modern, clean, scratch-free. It had been installed recently, and it was clearly part of a more complex system. This means someone is seeing everyone who enters the workshop, and most likely, recording them. Her nighttime visit was caught on tape. Someone now knows that the dead woman came to her old workshop. She considers the possibilities. The first is Hayuk. He could have set up a camera to catch any trace, any anomaly. Maybe he was hoping someone would come. Maybe he suspects something is fishy. If it was his camera, then he's watching the footage now and seeing her. A red-haired woman in black who knows where the hiding place is. It will be a shock to him, but also confirmation. He'll take action. It's a risk for David, but there's an opportunity in it. The second possibility is Miranda. She orchestrated the disappearance. It's logical that she'd keep an eye on Vanessa's locations to make sure she doesn't break the agreement, to catch her at the first mistake. And then David. Vanessa doesn't even want to think about it. The third, most frightening theory is Sang-chul. He saw her panic outside the cafe. He could have been interested. He could have set up the camera on his own initiative to find out what was going on. Or he could have been acting on Miranda's orders. Either way, if the camera is his, he's already on her trail. Returning to her dreary apartment at dawn, Vanessa realizes the most important thing. She is no longer safe. Her refuge was built on the assumption that no one would look for her. Now that assumption has been shattered. She's being pursued by at least two people. One is Hayuk, who seeks her out of love and longing. The other is someone from Miranda's camp, possibly Miranda herself, possibly Sang-chul, who is making sure she doesn't resurrect. They're moving in different directions, but their paths are about to cross. And when they do, the consequences for David will be dire. She had to act. But how? Flee the city? But then she'd lose Hayek forever, and any chance of having any control over the situation with her brother. Stay? That would be like a mouse being chased by two cats. She's barely left her apartment for days, ordering takeout. Every rustle in the entryway makes her jump. She checks to see if they've installed a camera at her door, too. Not yet, but it's just a matter of time. She understands that her loneliness and helplessness are her greatest enemies. She has no information. She doesn't know what Hayek saw, what Miranda is thinking, what steps Sang-cheol is taking. She's blind. On the third day of her self-imposed confinement, she decides to check the mailbox downstairs. Usually, it's just an ad. She slowly descends the stairs, looking around. Inside the old metal box, besides a supermarket flyer, lies a plain white envelope. There's no stamp, no address. Just her current pseudonym, handwritten in block letters. A lump of ice rises in her throat. No one should know this name. No one. She grabs the envelope and runs back up to the apartment, locking all the doors. With trembling hands, she opens the envelope. Inside is a sheet of squared paper torn from a notebook. The text is written in the same printed handwriting. He's searching. They are too. Be like the wind. Kiki, Aind, K. The message is short, but it's packed with information. He's looking for is Hayek. They too confirms her suspicion that Miranda's men are following her. But the most important thing is the last sentence and the signature. Be like the wind is advice to be weightless, elusive, leave no trace. Don't go back to the same old places. Don't make mistakes. And the signature K. One letter. Who is that? It's not Hayek, not Miranda. Fragments of memories begin to spin in his head. Hayek didn't have many people in the organization he trusted implicitly, mostly men. But there was one woman, Kono. She handled finance, was quiet, unnoticeable, but very smart. Vanessa always felt a silent sympathy from her. Hayek called her our ghost for her ability to disappear and find information. Could it have been her? Why? To help Yuck? Or out of personal animosity towards Miranda? It doesn't matter. The main thing is that she has an ally. Anonymous, mysterious, but an ally nonetheless. She's not alone. This thought gives her the first tiny bit of support she's had in a long time. A day after finding the note, her new cheap phone rang. An unfamiliar number appeared on the screen. She usually didn't answer those, but something made her lift the receiver to her ear. "Hello?" she said quietly. There was a noise in the receiver, as if a person was breathing into it but not speaking. "Who is it?" Vanessa asked, about to hang up. "Van," the voice whispered, trembling, frightened, but so familiar. It was David. "David!" Her own voice broke into a scream. "Where are you? Are you okay?" "Van, I didn't know who to call." His words stumbled out. "Someone came. Yesterday. Not to the dorm. To my part-time job, at the cafe." Vanessa gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Who? What did he want?" "A man. Korean. Well-dressed. He asked if I knew you. Said you went to the same class. I got scared. I said my sister died last year, that I didn't know him." Smart boy. He reacted correctly, but the fear in his voice was real. "He believed it?" Vanessa asked quickly. "I don't know. He just looked at me. Such a look, empty and heavy. Then he nodded and left." "But Van, I was scared. Who was it? Why was he asking about you? You're safe, aren't you?" "It's okay," she lied, trying to keep her voice even. "It was probably just someone's mistake. An old friend. You did the right thing. Forget it. And be careful, okay? I'm sorry I dragged you into this. Are you sure you're okay?" His voice held that same concern that always touched her. "Yes," she breathed out. "Just continue living your life as usual. And don't tell anyone else about this call. No one. Promise me." He promised. They said goodbye. Vanessa put the phone down and put her head in her hands. A man. Korean. Well-dressed. It could have been anyone, but the description of empty, heavy gaze. That sounds like people from Hayek's world, like Sang-cheol, or one of his people. So the search had already led to David. Icy fear gripped her. Miranda's plan was cracking. If they found David, they might find her too. Or they might simply decide that her brother was an unnecessary risk. Something had to be done. Sitting and waiting was out of the question. 2 days later, driven by desperation and the need to understand how close her pursuers had gotten, she decided on another risky walk. She went to the area where one of his clubs was located. Not the main one, but the one he liked to visit on Wednesdays to check his reports. An old habit. She took a seat in the small park opposite, behind a newspaper. She was well bundled up and wearing large sunglasses, despite the overcast weather. And she saw him. He wasn't leaving the club alone, but with Sang Chul. They were talking about something. Hyuk listened, nodded, but his face was a stony mask. And then, as he turned to get into the car, she caught a glimpse of him in profile. He had lost weight. His cheeks were hollow, his cheekbones more prominent. Dark circles under his eyes spoke of sleepless nights. His suit, always a perfect fit, now seemed a little too big on his shoulders. He looked drained, burned from the inside. His movements lacked the swift, predatory grace of before. There was a kind of mechanical fatigue. In that moment, all her caution, all her rules, her fear for David, it all vanished. Only a pure, cutting impulse remained. Her hands reached out of their own accord, as if she could reach across the street and touch his face, to tell him she was here, that she was alive, that she saw his pain and was ready to take it back. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't even notice. She saw only him. And at that moment, as if sensing someone's gaze, he turned his head sharply and looked straight at her. Their eyes met at a distance. He couldn't see her face behind her glasses and scarf, but his gaze, blank a second ago, suddenly became sharp, focused. He froze, peering. Panic returned, pushing aside her weakness. She abruptly lowered the newspaper, stood up, and, without looking back, practically ran away, blending into the crowd. She didn't know if he'd recognized anything, but she knew one thing. She couldn't just watch anymore. She couldn't sleep the entire night after that meeting. The image of his haggard face was before her eyes. He was dying without her, and she was dying in her loneliness. And all of this, because of someone else's will. By morning, her decision was ready. She had to give him a sign. Not to reveal herself completely. That would be fatal for David. But to give him hope. To let him know that he wasn't crazy, that his feelings weren't lying, that she was out there somewhere. She had one channel left, a very old one, almost forgotten. A backup encrypted messenger they'd installed on their phones many years ago, during their first secret meetings. In case of the apocalypse, he'd joked back then. They'd never used it. He probably didn't even remember it. Or maybe he'd long ago deleted the app, but it was the only way to send a message directly to his phone, bypassing all his people, bypassing Sangchul. She finds her old phone and turns it on. The battery is almost dead. She finds the app. The interface looks archaic. She finds a single number in her contacts. His. She doesn't write lyrics. Words can be interpreted in many ways. They can be intercepted. She needs something that only he will understand. She remembers the melody, that same simple, naive melody he played for her on the piano on their first anniversary. He said, "This is your theme." He wasn't a musician. The melody was clumsy, but for her, it became the most precious sound in the world. She still had a file, a recording from that evening. His laughter, the background noise, and that melody. With trembling fingers, she finds the file in her phone's memory and attaches it to a message on her old messenger. She doesn't write anything in the text field. She just sends the file and presses send. The message is sent. A tiny paper airplane from the past flies into the unknown. She doesn't know if he'll receive it, if he'll see it, if he'll remember. But she'd taken the first step. She'd stepped out of the shadows and spoken out. Now it was his turn. And those watching them both. The game had entered a new phase. Now they had to wait for an answer and prepare for anything. Hayek sits in his office on the top floor of a business center. Reports are on the desk in front of him, but he can't see them. The woman's face in the park is still before his eyes, shrouded, hidden, but her posture, the way her head is turned, something vaguely familiar. He spent the entire evening reviewing footage from all the security cameras around the club, but the crowd was thick, and she vanished like a ghost. His phone, lying to the side, vibrates quietly. Not his main one, but an old, almost forgotten device he keeps in a desk drawer out of habit. It's still full of old numbers and photos. He rarely turns it on, but this morning, something compelled him to charge it. He picks up his phone. On the screen is an icon for an app he hasn't seen in 3 years. A message from a contact, from her. His heart stops for a second. Then it starts beating wildly. It's a hack, someone's monstrous, cruel joke. Someone got into that old channel. Someone decided to play on his pain. He opens the message. There's no text, just a file. An audio file. He clicks on it. A familiar melody comes quietly, statically, from the phone's speakers. clumsy, naive, his own melody, and behind it, her laughter, her real, live laughter, recorded in that very room many years ago, and his own voice, saying something unintelligible. Hayuk freezes. Something in his chest tightens into a tight, painful knot. This isn't a hack. This recording can't be found just like that. It was only hers, only on her phone, never posted anywhere. So, that means this is. Rage rises slowly within him, like black lava, not toward the sender, but toward himself, toward his weakness, for believing she was dead, for crying at an empty grave. Someone played him, someone stole her from him, and now that someone thinks they can taunt him by sending him fragments of the past, he stands up and, in one motion, knocks all the papers and coffee cup off the table. The porcelain shatters on the floor with a clatter. He breathes heavily, clutching the old phone in his hand so tightly that the plastic cracks. Sanchiol runs into the office, alarmed by the noise. Hayuk, what happened? Hayuk slowly turns to face him. His face is a mask of cold, inhuman fury. Someone is playing with me, he says quietly, but every word is filled with steel. Someone sent me this. He plays the recording again, at full volume. Sangchuol listens. His expression first expresses bewilderment, then understanding, and then concern. He's cautious. It's her voice. Where is it coming from? It doesn't matter where it came from, Hayek growls. This is a provocation. Someone knows this hurts. Someone is watching, and they think I'm broken. He goes to the window, looks out at the city. Find this person. Find whoever sent this. Use everything. Hack this service. Find the IP. Trace all the digital traces. I want this person in front of me. Alive. I will deal with the provocateur personally. Sangcheol nods, his face serious. I'll take care of this immediately. It's a risk. If someone's dug that deep, he trails off. Trust me, I'll handle it. He leaves the office. His face changes as soon as the door closes. Concern gives way to cold concentration. He takes out his phone and quickly sends a message. She's in touch. Old messenger, we need to be ready. Vanessa has been living in a frantic wait for 3 days. She checks her old phone every 5 minutes. No answer, no reaction. Maybe he didn't receive it? Maybe he deleted the app? Maybe the phone is lost. Despair washes over her again. Her signal had vanished into thin air. She couldn't wait any longer. She needed to act bolder, take risks. She decides to set up a meeting. Something open. The location should be public, but with some shelter. She chooses a square with an old musical fountain. It's always crowded with tourists, with several exits and narrow streets all around. She writes a new message in the same app. Briefly, fountain at Chuncheon Square. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Come alone. She sends it and immediately turns off her phone and removes the battery. She knows it's dangerous. Someone might try to track her location while the phone is on. The next day, an hour and a half before the meeting, she's already there. She takes a position in the cafe on the second floor of the building, overlooking the entire square. She drinks water and continuously scans the area. For the first 40 minutes, everything is calm. The square lives its own life. Then, at precisely 2:15 p.m., she sees familiar figures. Not Hayuk, Sangchul, and 3 of his men with him. They're not coming out from the same side, but from different directions. Igi, like random passers-by. But she sees their eyes lock. Sangchul is saying something into a walkie-talkie hidden in the collar of his jacket. His men begin to methodically, leisurely, walk around the square. They inspect the benches, peer into the street cafes, study the faces of the people near the fountain. They don't look tense. They look like professionals checking the perimeter before an important event. A chill runs down Vanessa's spine. He didn't come alone. He brought people. He's preparing an ambush. But who is he waiting for? Her? Or the one he thinks is sending provocative messages? Worse yet, she looks at her watch. 2:30 p.m. Half an hour until the meeting. Hayuk still isn't here. And Sangchul is already here, controlling the square. This can only mean one thing. Hayuk entrusted him with this operation, gave him a message. Sangchul knows about the meeting. And suddenly, all the pieces of the puzzle fall into place with terrifying clarity. The camera is in the workshop. Questions are for David. The search for the provocateur. Sangchul isn't just following orders. He's an active player. He's on Miranda's side, or acting in his own interests, but he's definitely not on Hayek's side in this matter. She can't wait for Hayek. If he comes, Sangchul will either grab her, or, even worse, eliminate her by staging an accident right in front of Hyuk. breaking him completely. She has to go. Now. Vanessa quietly backs out of the cafe and down the fire escape into a dirty alley. She walks quickly, without looking back, but her mind is racing. Now everything is clear, saying, Cheol is the traitor. He didn't give Hyuk the message. Or he did, but he twisted it. He controls all the information that reaches Hyuk about her case. He is the one monitoring the workshop, the one who was on her trail, and he is clearly acting in such a way that Hyuk will never know the truth. Why? Power? Miranda promised him a place at Hyuk's side if he came to his senses? Or something more? It doesn't matter. What matters is that Hyuk is trapped. His best friend, his right-hand man, has betrayed him and is keeping him in the dark, playing on his pain. And she, Vanessa, is the only one who knows the truth. But she can't just walk up to him. Sang Cheol will never allow that. He'll always be there, always intercepting her signals, always one step ahead. We need a way to reach Hyuk directly. Bypassing Sang Cheol, bypassing all his systems, we need to get to the very heart of his world, where Sang Cheol isn't waiting. A plan comes to her instantly. Risky, almost crazy. But there is no other choice. She goes to a cheap uniform store and buys a set of courier uniforms, pants, a windbreaker, and a cap with the logo of a fictitious delivery service. Then, at an electronics store, she buys a simple cardboard box, some bubble wrap, and an envelope. She knows the schedule. Every Monday at 11 a.m., Hyuk has a long meeting with the accountants in the conference room on the same floor as his office. Sang Cheol is usually present. During these times, Hyuk's private elevator, which runs directly from the garage to his reception area, is rarely used. His security is on duty, but Hyuk himself and his shadow, Song Cheol, are busy. The next morning at 10:55, Vanessa, wearing a courier uniform, carrying a box and a tablet on a thin lanyard around her neck, approaches the business center's service entrance. She doesn't go to the main security guard. She heads for the courier service post located off to the side. She shows the fake invoice on the tablet to the bearded guard. Delivery for Mr. Kim, personal, hand-delivered, from the jewelry store, she says in a calm, professional voice. She holds up a box, carefully wrapped in plastic. The guard looks at the invoice and nods. Private elevator to the top floor. Give it to the secretary there. There are instructions to put it in the personal safe in his office. The secretary has the key. I need to verify it myself, she counters without batting an eye. She knows there are no such instructions, but she sounds confident. The guard shrugs. He doesn't care. He leads her through the turnstile and points to a separate, nondescript door with a keycard panel. The elevator is over there. It's a one-time card. He hands her a plastic card. Vanessa thanks him and walks to the elevator. Her heart is pounding somewhere in her temples. She swipes her card. The elevator doors open. Inside are mirrored walls, soft lighting. She steps in. She sees a button with the letter P, penthouse. She presses it. The elevator moves silently. She's alone. She has maybe 3 minutes until the elevator rises and she emerges into the reception area. She quickly peels off the top layer of bubble wrap from the box. Beneath it is a regular cardboard box. She opens it. Inside is what she has prepared. She closes the box. The elevator slows. The doors open directly into a spacious, minimalist reception area. A young secretary sits at the desk. She looks at Vanessa with surprise. Delivery for Mr. Kim, Vanessa says again, handing over the box, with instructions to leave it in the private elevator for his attention. Urgent and confidential. The secretary looks at the box, then at her. I didn't receive any instructions. The instructions were given directly, Vanessa says impenetrably. You can call and double-check, but this is extremely urgent. She steps back toward the still open elevator doors and simply sets the box down on the floor. That's it. My job is done. Have a nice day. She presses the button for the first floor. The doors begin to close. She sees the secretary stand up, looking from her to the box in the elevator. Then the door closes, and the elevator moves smoothly downward. Vanessa exhales. She did it. The message was delivered straight to his elevator, to the very heart of his fortress. There were only 2 items in the box. The first was half of an old silver coin. Not a real one, but a souvenir. They'd bought them at a flea market in Busan during their first trip together. He'd broken the coin in half. Half for me, half for you. For good luck, he'd said. She'd always kept the other half, and now it was in the box. The second item is a photograph, printed on plain matte paper. It's of Vanessa. She's sitting on her cheap couch in her new apartment. She's wearing a simple sweater, her red hair loose. She's holding today's newspaper, the date visible in close-up. She's looking straight into the camera. There's no happiness or smile in her eyes. There's seriousness, weariness, and quiet determination. A caption is unnecessary. The photo and the coin speak for themselves. I'm alive. I remember. This is today. Hayek returns to his office from a meeting at precisely noon. He's tired. The numbers, the reports, the conversations, it all seems like a meaningless background. He walks through the reception area. His secretary stands up nervously. Mr. Kim, a moment ago, a courier left a box for you. In the private elevator. Said it was urgent and confidential. I didn't know what to do. Hayek frowns. A courier? Which one? From a jewelry store, he said. But I didn't order it. Hayek cuts her off with a wave of his hand. He approaches the elevator and presses the button. The doors open. A small cardboard box lies on the floor. He freezes for a moment. The feeling of being trapped, of danger, a familiar one. He looks at the box, then looks around. Sang Cheol is still in the meeting, sorting out the details. Hayek bends down and picks up the box. It's light. He carries it into his office, closes the door, and places it on his desk. He takes his time. He examines it. There's no sender's address, just his name. He takes a box cutter and carefully rips open the tape, opens the lid. The first thing he sees is a half coin. He freezes. His hand reaches for it involuntarily. He picks it up. He recognizes this coin. He remembers that day, that market, her laughter. His own half is at home, in the top drawer of his bureau. He hasn't told anyone about this. No one could know. Then he sees a photograph. He takes it. Time stands still for him. The sounds of the street outside the window, the ticking of the clock on the wall, everything disappears. He looks at her face, not at an old photograph from the past, at a living face, with new red hair. In her eyes, not a ghostly smile of memory, but real weariness, deep seriousness. He looks at the newspaper in her hands. Today's date, large, clear. He looks at the coin, then back at the photo. Everything in his head is crumbling. The cemetery, the tears, the emptiness, the pain. It was all a lie. His grief was built on sand. His mother? Sang Cheol? Who else? The circle of deception and betrayal begins to unfold with alarming speed. But at this moment, these thoughts are just background. The main thing, the only thing that exists in the world, is the photograph. It is alive. Rage, despair, confusion, all of it burns away in an instant. His face, tired and closed a second ago, is transformed. His muscles tense. His eyes, which had just stared into space, now burn with a cold, focused fire. There is no longer grief in them. There is a wild, incredible, all-consuming determination in them. He puts the photograph and the coin back in the box. He closes it. His movements are precise, economical. He goes to the safe built into the wall, opens it, puts the box back inside, and closes it. Then he returns to the table and sits down in the chair. He doesn't call Sanchul. He doesn't call security. He sits motionless, staring straight ahead. His world is split into before and after. Before is living in the shadow of loss. After begins now. And the first rule of after is, he trusts no one, especially those who have been by his side all these months. She's alive, and someone very close tried very hard to keep him from finding out. Now he knows, and the game changes. He's no longer the hunted, he's the hunter, and his prey is the truth, and the one hiding behind the red hair in the photograph. Hayek sits in the office for another 10 minutes, motionless. His mind works like a computer, filtering out emotions, analyzing the facts. She's alive. She contacted him. Twice. First the audio file, now the box. So she's trying to get through, but she's afraid. Why? Because someone is interfering. Someone inside. He remembers the audio file. He received it and flew into a rage. He ordered Sangchul to find the sender. Sangchul took up the case, but there were no results. Or are there, but he's hiding them. He remembers the box. It came straight to his elevator. That means it has access, or the courage, to get in. But it didn't come itself. It sent a message. It cries out for help, but it can't come openly. He needs to respond. He needs a channel that no one controls. He picks up an old phone with a messenger app. He opens that same chat. He writes one word. Where? The message isn't sent. An error appears on the screen. Recipient unavailable. He tries again. Same error. So she's gone offline. Destroyed the SIM card. the channel is dead. He calls his IT specialist, someone who doesn't report to Sang-chul but works directly for him under contract. Check all old backup email addresses associated with Vanessa. Look for any activity from the last 6 months. An hour later, the specialist calls back. No activity, boss. All addresses have either been deleted or haven't been used in over a year. The last emails were standard notifications. Nothing. Hyuk hangs up. She's cut off all avenues to her old life. Only the physical world remains. And she's somewhere in this city. She's changed her appearance. She has red hair. She's hiding. And one of his people is working against her. Who has access to his communications? Who can influence the flow of information? Sang-chul is first on the list, but not the only one. They need to act around everyone. Hyuk opens the bottom drawer of his desk. He takes out a simple flip phone, bought with cash at a random store. It's blank, unregistered. He buys one of these every 6 months and hides it, just in case. Now that case has arrived. He writes on a piece of paper, "I received the box. I believe. Find a way to speak, safely." He doesn't sign. He takes a picture of the note with his phone. Now he needs to find a way to get this message out into the world so it finds her. That will be more difficult. Vanessa returned to her apartment after delivering the box. She was tense, but also, for the first time in months, felt a glimmer of hope. She'd made her move. Now it was his turn. She waits for 2 days. No messages on the old messenger. She hadn't expected any. Her phone was destroyed. No signs on the street. Nothing. The silence is worse than the danger. Maybe he didn't receive the box? Maybe Sang-chul intercepted it? On the 3rd day, her new phone rings. An unfamiliar number. She looks at the screen. Her heart skips a beat. It could be Hyuk. A way found. She puts the phone to her ear without saying a word. "Hello, Vanessa," says a male voice. Calm, even, almost polite. But it's not Hyuk. Her breath catches. Her real name. No one here should know it. "Who is this?" she squeezes out. "That's not important. What matters is that your sentimentality is endangering a young man. Your brother." The voice doesn't change its tone. "You broke the agreement. You contacted him. It was very stupid." A chill of horror grips her. "Did you touch David? If you touched him—" "Not yet," the voice interrupts. "Not yet. But his safety depends directly on your behavior. You must forget the past, completely. You must stop trying to contact Mr. Kim. Disappear for real. Leave the city. Leave the country. And your brother will move on with his life. If you take another step toward Mr. Kim, you understand the consequences. The connection is lost." He hung up. Vanessa stands in the middle of the room, clutching the phone in her numb fingers. They know. They're following her. Or are they following Hyuk and intercepted the box? They didn't name Sang-chul. They didn't name Miranda. But these are clearly her people. The threat is clear. One wrong move from her, and David will be gone. And Hyuk might not even know about this threat. He could, with his actions, inadvertently sign David's death warrant. Vanessa has been restless all day. She paces her tiny apartment like a caged animal. She has 2 paths to follow, and both lead to the abyss. The first option: open up to Hyuk completely. Come to him and tell him everything. About Miranda, about the blackmail, about David. Risk. Miranda's people, or Sang-chul, will find out about this before Hyuk can do anything. And David will die. Hyuk might get revenge, but it won't bring her brother back. She will lose David forever. The second option: obey. Disappear. Take the rest of his money, buy a ticket to another country, start his life anew. This will save David, but it will forever destroy any hope of reuniting with Hyuk. He will search for her, perhaps for years, not knowing the truth, believing she abandoned him willingly. Or worse, he will eventually give in and believe she is dead. She will lose Hyuk forever. The choice between a brother and a husband, between duty and love, between the life of one and the happiness of another. She sits down on the floor, clasps her knees, and cries quietly. From helplessness, from rage, from injustice. She's been driven into a corner. Any step in any direction is a disaster. But deep down, she knows. She already made her choice when she sent him that melody. When she sent him the box. She decided to fight. To retreat now would be to betray both him and herself. And even if she escaped, she wouldn't be sure of David's safety. Miranda might decide that her brother is an unnecessary reminder and get rid of him just like that, just in case. So she needs to fight to the end, but fight smart. She needs to find a way to neutralize the threat to David before going to Hyuk, and for that, For that, she needs Hayek again. It's a vicious circle. No, not a circle. She needs leverage. She needs information. She needs to know where David is, who's following him. And to find that out, she needs resources she doesn't have. But Huck does. She decides to take a desperate step, to meet, but not to throw herself into his arms, but to form an alliance, to tell him everything and find a way out together. It's a risk, but it's the only chance to save them both. She remembers one place, an abandoned recording studio on the outskirts of town. They found it by chance when they got lost. They went inside out of curiosity. There was old equipment and dusty tapes left there. They spent several hours there, talking, laughing. It was their secret place. No one knew about it, not even Sang Chul. It's the perfect meeting place. Remote, quiet, with several exits and plenty of hiding places inside. She has no way to contact Hyuk, but she can send a message where he'll find her if he wants to look. She writes a note on a blank sheet of paper in block letters. Studio, tomorrow, 10 p.m. Nothing more. The question is, how to deliver? She can't risk going to his business center again. Sang Chul is on guard now. Then she remembers his country house, the one where they went on weekends. There was almost no security there, only an elderly caretaker, and there was an old mailbox by the gate. She takes a taxi there at night, gets off a kilometer before her house, and walks along the side of the road. She finds a mailbox. The latch is rusty, and it's rarely used. She places a note inside, wrapped in a clear rain bag. If he's really looking for her, he'll check this place. If not, then her hope is in vain. The next day, shortly before 10 o'clock, she's already inside the studio. She's hiding on the second floor, behind a massive control panel, overlooking the entire main room. Armed only with a flashlight and pepper spray, she waits. At 9:58 p.m., she hears a door creak. Not the main one, but the back door from the warehouse, the one only they knew about. My heart starts pounding. A figure appears in the doorway. Tall, powerful. He steps into the beam of moonlight, falling from the broken window. It's Hayuk. He's alone. He stands in the middle of the room, slowly looking around. His face in the dim light looks tense, but collected. Vanessa? His voice, quiet and low, carries under the high ceilings. She doesn't answer right away. She looks at him, taking in every detail. He looks better than he did that day in the park. His posture has regained its familiar strength and composure. But in his eyes, there's not the old confidence, but a question mingled with caution. She rises slowly from the control panel. "I'm here," she says. He turns sharply at the sound of her voice. Their gazes meet across the hallway. She sees his eyes widen as he takes a step forward. An instinctive impulse. His hand reaches out to her. "Stay back!" Her voice is sharp, almost hysterical. She steps back behind the control panel, creating a barrier. "Please, don't come any closer." He freezes. Pain and confusion flash in his eyes. "What's happening? Why are you... WHGI is all this?" He struggles to find the words. "David," she breathes. "They're holding David. Or rather threatening him. If I contact you, they'll kill him." Hayek frowns. "Who are they? Who dares?" She takes a deep breath. She needs to speak quickly and clearly. "Your mother, Hayek. Your mother orchestrated all of this. She came to me. She told me I was your weakness, that I was a risk. She gave me a choice. Disappear voluntarily, faking my death, or David would die." He's silent. His face turns stony. "Mother," he says the word without emotion. "But that's not all," Vanessa continues, her words flowing. "I tried to get in touch. First, I sent a melody. Then I set up a meeting at the fountain. But you didn't show up. Instead, an hour before the meeting, Sang Chul showed up with his men. He was surveying the square, preparing an ambush. Now Hayek looks at her with genuine shock. "Sang Chul? He didn't tell me anything about meeting at the fountain. He said the IP address of the sender of the melody was located abroad, that it was probably a provocation by competitors." "He's lying," Vanessa says firmly. "He's working for her, or with her. He's been watching my workshop. He's set up a camera there. He's been coming to David, asking about me. He's been intercepting all my attempts to contact you. He's a traitor." Hayek turns away, running his hand over his face. He steps to the side, then back. It's clear his mind is desperately resisting. "No," he says finally. "No, that's impossible. Mother, it's possible. She's capable of such a thing. But Sang Chul, we've been through everything together. He's like a brother. That's why he's the perfect traitor," Vanessa insists. You trust him implicitly. He controls your safety, your information. Through him, your mother manages the situation without getting her hands dirty. You could be wrong, Hayek says, and his voice doesn't sound angry, but rather like a tired disbelief. You were scared. You imagined it. You see enemies everywhere because of stress. Sang Chiol could have been checking the fountain for another reason. He could have been questioning David because he was looking for you on my orders after that strange death. You don't know everything. Vanessa feels a wall growing between them, a wall of his trust in his friend and his mistrust of her, who has lied to him all these months, albeit under duress. Do you think I made all this up? Her voice trembled with resentment and despair. Do you think I voluntarily abandoned you, my life, everything I had, and now I've come back with such fairy tales? For what? I don't know. He raises his voice for the first time. I don't know what to think. You were dead. I cried at your grave, and now you stand here and tell me that my best friend and my mother are traitors. You're asking me to believe something I can't just believe. They stand in silence, separated by a few meters and a chasm of misunderstanding. The air is heavy with unspoken grievances, pain, and fear. Vanessa understands. Words won't convince him. She needs evidence, facts. Okay, she says quietly. Let's check, right now. He looks at her suspiciously. How? Give him false information, from me. Tell him I've been in touch, that I've set up a new meeting. See what he does. Hayek slowly shakes his head. It's a game, a dangerous game. It's the only way to find out the truth, she insists. Tell him I called your secret number, that I'm scared and request a meeting tomorrow morning. Name a location. For example, the old repair dock at the port, number 7. You'll say you'll go there alone, so as not to scare him off, but ask him to provide cover in case this is a trap. Understand? You'll give him a chance to either protect you or eliminate me. Hyuk looks at her for a long moment, a struggle raging in his eyes. Finally, he nods. Okay, I'll check. But if I'm wrong, you'll never see me again. She finishes for him. I'll disappear forever, and you'll know you trusted a friend, not a crazy woman. He takes out that same simple flip phone. He dials a number. Vanessa freezes, listening. Sang Chul, it's me. Listen carefully. She's contacted me. She called. The voice is similar, but I'm not sure. She set up a meeting. Tomorrow, 7 a.m. Repair dock number 7 in the old port. I'm coming. Alone. But I need cover. Complete silence. Set up a perimeter. If it's her, I don't want to scare her. If it's a trap, be prepared for anything. Yes. Understood. I expect a report in the morning at 6:30. He hangs up. He looks at Vanessa. Satisfied? Now we wait, she says. They don't leave the studio. She stays upstairs, he stays downstairs. They don't talk. The night passes in oppressive silence. At 5:30 a.m., Vanessa peers cautiously out the broken window overlooking the port. The city is just waking up. At 6:15, Hayek receives a text on his phone. He reads it, his face darkening. He looks up at her. It says, perimeter established. All clear. Be careful. Just as agreed. Vanessa looks at her watch. 6:20. Let's wait another 40 minutes, she says. At 6:50, she whispers, let's go. Be careful. They creep toward the port, using the old industrial areas for cover. At 6:55, they take up position on the roof of an abandoned warehouse overlooking Dock 7. The dock is empty. All is quiet. At precisely 7 a.m., 2 black SUVs emerge from behind a neighboring hangar. They stop 100 meters from the dock, behind piles of rusty metal. The doors open. 6 people emerge. At the head is Sang Chul. He's saying something to his men, giving them orders. 2 remain with the vehicles, while the rest begin to covertly and professionally surround the empty dock, taking up positions with a view of all approaches. They don't look like a cover force. They look like an assault team, or an assassination team. Hayek freezes next to Vanessa. He looks at this picture, and his entire body tenses. His face becomes completely impassive, but a hurricane rages in his eyes. Rage, pain, betrayal. He looks at Sanchiol, who is checking his weapon while hiding behind a container. He looks at his focused, businesslike face. He says nothing more. He simply looks. And that look speaks louder than any words. The wall of disbelief has crumbled. Now there is only one person in his world he can trust. And she stands next to him on the cold roof, her hand instinctively reaching out and touching his clenched fist. They climb down from the roof in silence and leave, while Sang Chul and his men wait by the empty dock. Hayek leads her through the labyrinth of back streets, his movements automatic but abrupt. He doesn't look at her. He looks inside himself, and there, the storm. He takes her to a three-car garage unrelated to his main business. He gets behind the wheel of an old, nondescript sedan. They drive toward the city center, but he doesn't take her home. He drives to his spare apartment. On the way, his phone starts vibrating. Not the regular one, but his main one. He looks at the screen. Several missed calls from numbers within the organization. Then a message arrives from one of the elders. "Call urgently!" Hayek ignores it. 5 minutes later, the phone rings again. He picks it up. The voice on the phone speaks quickly, agitatedly. "Boss? Where are you?" "The police just searched the main office. They have a warrant. They're looking for transit documents through port number 7. They say there's a witness that you gave the orders. Rivals from the Pack clan have already issued an ultimatum to the elders for trespassing. Everything's on fire." Hayek slowly lowers the phone. He looks at the road, his face stony. "It works fast," Vanessa says quietly from the passenger seat. It was Sang Cheol. He realized the trap at the port had failed. He realized Hyuk knew. And he struck first. He framed him for the police and for his rivals. Now Hyuk has no home, no organization, no support. He's a target. For the police, for his rivals, and, of course, for Sang Cheol himself, who must now see this through to the end to maintain his power and Miranda's favor. "Where are we going?" Vanessa asks. "It was a safe place. Now it's not safe," he says. He has no safe places anymore. Sancheol knows all his safe places. He drives aimlessly, weaving through the city, checking for surveillance. Finally, he parks in the shade under a bridge in an industrial area. He turns off the engine. The car is silent. He turns to her. For the first time, he truly looks at her, not as a ghost or a source of information, but as a person. At the red-haired woman sitting next to him, her hands clasped in her lap. "Do you know a place?" he asks. His voice is hoarse. "Where we can hide, for a day or two, where no one will look. Not Sancheol, not my people, not your observers." Vanessa nods. "Yes, I know. Lead the way," he says. They switch places. She drives. He sits next to her, looking out the window. There's a huge, heavy silence between them. It's filled with everything they haven't said. His pain at the betrayal of his mother and best friend. His anger at himself for not seeing this sooner. His confusion at the fact that he, the all-powerful Hayek, is now a fugitive in his own city. And her guilt. Guilt for participating in the deception. Fear for David. And a timid, impermissible hope that flickers somewhere deep inside, looking at his profile in the light of the streetlights. They're in the same boat. But this boat is floating on a stormy sea of their shared pain, and the shore is still a long way off. She drives him to the other side of town, to an old residential area lined with identical panel buildings. She parks in a courtyard filled with other old cars. "Here," she says, pointing to the entrance. They go up to the 4th floor. She takes out her key and opens the door. Inside, the same dreary, cheap furnishings as her first apartment. But there are no personal belongings here. It's a clean, sterile space for survival. Canned food in the cupboard, bottles of water, spare clothes, a first aid kit, a wad of cash in a hiding place under the floorboards. Her nest for emergencies, which no one knew about. Hyuk enters and looks around. His gaze glides over the bare walls, the plastic table, the narrow sofa. This is the world she's lived in all these months. A world of fear and loneliness. His heart clenches. "Is it safe here?" he asks. "For now, yes. I rented it using fake documents through 3 intermediaries. No one connects this place with me, and especially not with you." He nods. He trusts her survival instincts. They worked better than his own security system. They sit down at the table. On the table is a city map, which Vanessa takes out of a drawer, and 2 simple telephones. Their entire army. Hayek says, his voice becoming businesslike, commanding again. "It's a familiar role, and it helps take the pain out of my mind. First, find David and keep him safe. Second, obtain irrefutable evidence against my mother and Sang Chul. Third, clear my name so I can return and eliminate them legally, without waging war on all the clans at once." Vanessa listens. She sees him picking himself up piece by piece. How anger and betrayal turn into cold calculation. "How can I find David?" he asks. "Do you have contact with him?" "Just the old number. But after the threatening call, I'm afraid to use it. They might be listening in." "Think, where could he be if they took him? Or if they just increased surveillance?" Vanessa closes her eyes. "His dorm. It's dangerous. He has a friend, Chad. They went to school together. Chad lives with his parents in a private house in the suburbs. David could have tried to take refuge there if he sensed danger. He knew something was wrong. The address, Hayek says. She writes. He looks at the paper. Evidence, he continues. Sang-chul isn't stupid. He wouldn't keep incriminating evidence on himself and my mother in an accessible location. He must have his own secret archive, digital or physical. He has a server, Vanessa says slowly. Not a corporate one, a personal one. He bragged over dinner once about building his own little fortress for his personal data. Said it was inaccessible. Hyuk looks at her. Do you know where? No, but I know how to possibly gain access. Hayek looks at her in surprise. How? I'm not just an artist, she says, looking at the table. I studied graphic design, but half of my courses were digital art, 3D modeling, and database management. I'm good with computers. And also, I'm observant. She pauses. A year ago, on your birthday, we were all at your country house. Sang-chul was drunk. He came into the office to check something on his laptop. I brought him some water. He was entering a password, a long, complex one. He used one hand, covering the keyboard with the other, but I was standing to the side. I saw his fingers move, and I memorized the sequence. I have a good visual memory. Hyuk can't hide his surprise. You remembered the password to his personal Surviva? I memorized the key combination. I later reproduced it on my keyboard at home to figure out what the symbols were. It wasn't a random string. It was a date, a name, and a special character, the date. The day you and he won your first big battle for the neighborhood. The name of his first dog, the one that died. I heard him talk about her. Sang-chul, he is sentimental at heart. He uses what is valuable to him. And you think he hasn't changed his password in a year? He might have changed it, but people often use the same keys, adding numbers. And he has access to the server from any device. So there could be two-factor authentication. But if we gain access to his personal phone or tablet, Hayek considers. So here's the plan. First, David. We find him and isolate him in a completely safe place. Then we retrieve Sang-chul's device. Without it, we can't go any further. How do I get my phone? It's always with me. So we need to make him lose his guard or distract him, Hayek says. A familiar, dangerous light flashes in his eyes. A hunter's light. And I have an idea how to do it. Their plan works faster than they thought. Hayek, using his last trusted contacts, discovers that David is indeed hiding with Chad's friend. The house is already under surveillance by Sang-chul's men. They're waiting to see if Vanessa shows up. Hayek operates through third parties. He hires a small private group of former military personnel, unaffiliated with the clans. Their task is to extract David and Chad from their home during a false alarm on the other side of town, load them into a van, and deliver them to an abandoned camp outside the city, which once belonged to Hyuk's organization, but has been forgotten by everyone. The operation goes smoothly. David is safe. He's scared, but alive. Vanessa hears his voice over the secure line and cries with relief. Sang-chul's turn. Hayek takes a huge risk. He anonymously leaks information to his competitors about Sang-chul's whereabouts that evening. A shootout breaks out near the restaurant. Sang-chul isn't injured, but he's thrown to the ground, his phone falling out of his pocket and smashing on the pavement. In the chaos, one of the random passers-by, Hyuk's man, picks up the phone and disappears. An hour later, the broken but working phone lies on the table in the shelter. It's password protected, but that's no problem. Vanessa connects it to her laptop using specialized equipment, purchased long ago for graphics work, but perfectly suited for hacking. A few hours later, she bypasses the lock. They find an app for remote access to the server. It requires a password and a code from the phone. They have the phone. She enters the same password she remembered, with slight variations. On the third try, access is granted. They are inside. Sang-chul's server is a treasure trove of information. Financial reports, lists of people, plans. Hayek searches for his name and finds it. A folder titled Project Phoenix. Inside, correspondence. Clean, impersonal emails. But the style, the turn of phrase. Hayek recognizes his mother's handwriting. Directives. Target is to disappear without a trace. Use a crash scenario. Ensure non-interference by the target's family. The target is Vanessa. Next comes correspondence with a police official about the loss of the body. Orders for constant surveillance of the grave and workshop. Sang-chul's reports. Kim is still depressed. He believes the theory. the risk is minimal, and most importantly, recent letters. After Hayuk began to suspect something, Sangchul writes to Miranda, "He's become suspicious. He's checking old channels. We need to increase pressure on my brother or speed up the liquidation. I propose the option with the police and the Park clan. This will completely discredit him and transfer control to me. Do you approve? Answer. Do what you have to do. Save face for the family. Hayek needs to get back on track. Without her." Hayek reads this. He sits motionless, his face a mask. But Vanessa sees the slight tremor in his fingers as they rest on the table. He sees in black and white how his mother and brother, calmly, matter-of-factly, planned to ruin his life, how they used his pain to control him, how they were willing to destroy his reputation and hand his business over to Sangchul, just so he would come to his senses. They don't wait. With the evidence on the flash drive, they go to Miranda's house. This isn't a raid. This is a visit. Hayek passes through security, who recognize him despite his simple clothes and tired face. Vanessa walks alongside him, no longer hiding her face. Miranda is in the winter garden. She's drinking tea when they enter. She looks at them without a hint of surprise. Her gaze glides over Vanessa, and only a hint of irritation flashes in her eyes, as if she were seeing a stain on the tablecloth. "Son, I heard you're having problems," she says first. Hayek doesn't answer. He takes out his laptop, opens it, and places it on the table in front of her. He starts playing a video of their conversation. She watches it for a few seconds, then pushes the laptop away. "Nonsense," she says. "Fake. You've let that woman fool you even more." "Enough, mother," Hyuk says. His voice is quiet, but it's so powerful that Vanessa shudders. "I know everything. From the first day until today. I saw Sangchul plotting an ambush for my wife. I saw you giving the orders." Miranda puts down her cup. Her face expresses neither fear nor remorse, only cold disdain for the inconvenient reality. "I did what I had to do," she says clearly. "You are the heir to everything our family has built. You are the face of our name. And she nods toward Vanessa, was a mistake, a weakness, a risk. I saved our family's face. I saved you from your own feelings. You should be grateful that everything turned out without real tragedy." "Grateful?" Hyuk lets out a sound like a strangled laugh. "You stole a year of my life. You made me believe I'd lost everything. You manipulated my friend into betrayal. And you call that saving?" "I did what you were too weak to do yourself," she replies. "Now that you know everything, the choice is yours. Return to your duties. Hand this woman and her brother over to Sangchul to settle the matter. Accept the rules of this world, and everything can return to normal. You will remain the leader. Sangchul will be your right-hand man. And I will know that my son has finally matured." She says this as if she is offering him tea, and not a deal to hand over the woman he loves. Hayek looks at her with a long, heavy gaze. He sees not his mother, but another player at the chessboard, a game he no longer wants to play. "No," he says simply. "Here are my terms. You publicly renounce all rights to family affairs in my favor. You go to your home abroad and stay there. Forever." Sangchul gains all visible power. He becomes the head of the organization, but he does so with the stigma of a traitor in the eyes of the elders, because I will hand over these records to them. He will be a puppet they distrust, preoccupied with maintaining power rather than seeking revenge. You and he gain life and the semblance of power, but you lose all real influence, and you lose me. Miranda looks genuinely hurt for the first time. "You're giving up everything? For her?" "I refuse to lie," he corrects. "And now, my second condition. David, he and his friend must be delivered here, to this house, within the hour, safe and sound, after which all surveillance on them ceases. Forever, they are free. And if I refuse," Miranda says, her voice steely, "then I'll send these files not only to the elders but also to the police, our friends from the prosecutor's office, and our rivals. You and Sangchul will become everyone's main targets. Your family face will be trampled in the mud. The choice is yours." He's not bluffing. She can see it in his eyes. He's ready to burn everything to the ground, including himself, to protect these two. Miranda slowly leans back in her chair. She's lost. Not because she's weak, but because her opponent has stopped playing by her rules. He's thrown the board down. "Fine," she says icily. "You will have the boy, and you will have your shameful world. But remember, son, once you leave this world, you become nothing, and you will remain nothing." Hayek replies, An hour later, a car pulls up to the house. David and his friend Chad get out. They are pale and scared. Vanessa runs out to them and hugs her brother. He's alive. He's safe. They spend the night at Miranda's country house, guarded by the last of Hook's loyal men. No one sleeps. David and Chad are shocked, but they are safe. At dawn, Hayuk gives his final orders. He transfers all formal authority to Sangcheol through the elders, attaching to the notice selective evidence of his betrayal, enough to keep him on the hook but not destroy him outright. He terminates all contracts and disowns all traceable accounts. He takes only cash from a few hiding places that Sangchul hadn't managed to find. It's enough to start a new life somewhere far away. He goes out to the car, where Vanessa, David, and Chad are already waiting. They get in. Chad is behind the wheel. David is in the passenger seat. Hayuk and Vanessa are in the back. The car starts and drives out the gate. The city slowly awakens. They drive along the deserted highway south to a small airfield where a private jet, paid for in cash, awaits them. Vanessa looks out the window at the receding streets. Then her gaze shifts to Hayek's profile. He sits upright, looking ahead. His face is calm, but his eyes reveal the weariness of a long war and the emptiness of losing everything he knew. She doesn't know what will happen next. She doesn't know if they can be together after all this pain and lies. She doesn't know if he will forgive her completely. She doesn't know if she will forgive herself, but she knows he chose them, chose the truth, and now they are free. Her hand rests on the seat between them. She looks at his hand, resting on his knee. Slowly, almost unconsciously, her fingers move and find his. She touches them. He shudders as if struck by electricity. He turns his head and looks at her. There's no longer the rage or pain in his eyes. There's a question and a deep, bottomless weariness. She doesn't take her hand away. She just looks into his eyes, and very slowly, her fingers close around his palm. She holds his hand, tightly. He freezes for a second. Then his fingers tighten too. Weakly at first, then more firmly. He holds her hand like an anchor, like the only solid point in a crumbling world. He doesn't look at the road. He looks at their joined hands. Then he looks up at her. And for the first time in many, many months, something vaguely resembling relief appears at the corners of his lips. Not a smile, but a hint that maybe someday a smile could return. The car is speeding along the highway. Sunrise is ahead. The road is clear. They are driving towards a new day, all together.